Alright guys, so this is another Patreon request, and this one comes from Hunter Johnson, who asked me to do a cartoon version of Flashpoint. So let's get started. And before we go any further, as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon. You guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on Patreon once you hit the 4th tier. But other than that, let's get started. So, this story starts off with Steven, with Steven Universe, and this story pretty much is like Steven after the events of Steven Universe Future, and he's having a talk on the phone with his therapist, and he's having this conversation of like, his therapist is like, if you could talk to your mother right now, what would you want to say to her? And he's like, I don't know. So Steven, that kind of like racks in his brain a bit. Like that does rack around like in his brain of like, what could he say to his mother? Like what would he want to say to his mother? Through all of this, what would be, how would he, what would he want to say to her? So he does think about it. He's like, there's a way I can do this, right? There is a way. So what happens is he goes back to the crystal gems, and he actually goes in the temple and finds the little, if you guys remember, the little time traveling device, and he uses it to go all the way back to. And yes, I know, as some people are saying, didn't that thing get destroyed in that slice of life episode it showed up in? Yeah, but whatever. It's my story, my rules. Shut up. So Steven uses it to go all the way back to, back to the past, in order to talk to Rose. The problem is that what he ends up doing is when he talks to Rose, when he wants to talk to Rose, what he ended up doing was he basically caused an divergence in time. So when he wanted to talk to her and have a conversation with her, what he ended up doing was altering the timeline drastically. And he also, he made a big no-no because Steven couldn't help himself and told told Rose that you were gonna die. He doesn't say hey, I'm your son, but you're gonna die, and when you meet he doesn't give her specifics, but that gives Rose enough to not want to exist. So he time travels forward and finds out, yeah, it's gone so much worse. It's gotten a lot worse, because since then the timeline has been altered drastically. Time has been completely altered, and it's it's a lot worse. It's so much worse. How bad do you think it is? Well, here's how bad shit is. Optimus Prime never became a leader of the Autobots. He's in fact been killed, and the Autobots lost the war on Cybertron, and Megatron and the Decepticons are now a group of spacefaring conquerors, and they're looking to take over Earth. But there's something in their way, and that thing is the Mumins. The Mumins are at war with the Decepticons, and Earth is their battleground, because when the Decepticons came all those years ago, they killed off what heroes were there. Some don't exist anymore. But what happened was, when Star got sent to Earth to practice magic in peace, a bombing run from Starscream killed her. So Moon, angry and vengeful, more or less declared war on the Decepticons and wanted to make Earth their battleground. So Earth is caught in the war between the Decepticons and Mumins as Moon and Megatron wage war on each other. And the war is getting really fucking bad. The war is just tearing apart Earth between Muni and the Decepticons, because mankind is just caught in the middle of these two superpowers. What happens is that there are a few other things that have gone wrong as well. Greg never met Rose. Now you maybe think, well, why is Steven still here? Because he's kind of the time stream protected him from this. The time stream protected him from this event. And what also happened was that, that means Rose is still alive. The crystal gems are alive, but it's a lot different. Rose doesn't have like Garnet anymore. She doesn't have Garnet. She doesn't have Amethyst. Pearl is still there, but the team is a little different. In here, it's Rose, Pearl, Jasper, and Sapphire, because Ruby died in the Gem Wars. Yeah, the Gem Wars did end, but only because Megatron declared war on the Gem Empire. So the Diamonds literally could not sustain a war fighting a rebellion on Earth and then fight the Decepticon Empire. So they gave up, and they just fucked off and left. So what has happened is that the crystal gems there are other gems, like they did like blast the planet, but they're all like in separate groups. They're all in different sects, and some of them have no longer follow Rose. Some of them joined as mercenaries to the crystal, to either the Mumins or the Decepticons. So, yeah. So Steven sees Rose again, and yeah, it's a vastly different crystal gem team. And Rose is like, I met you. We talked, and he's like, this isn't right. Like, this timeline should not exist. There's no way, like, all of this. And he's like, whatever I did in the past, must have altered the future. So I gotta figure out a way to fix it. And she's like, well, where's the machine, the little thing you came with? And he's like, it's gone. I don't have it. I have to go back in time to stop myself, and it broke when I came back. And she's like, well, maybe there's a way we can figure this out. Like, we do know some humans that can help with all of this. While this is going on, Ford Pines, who is in this continuity, he never went to Bill. He never got lost in the multiverse because of Bill. In here, he actually patched things up with Stan, but Stan and the rest of the Pines family have been killed by Mumins. Like, they were massacred in a Mumin ambush, because the Mumins don't care about the humans. In Moon's eyes, they're just as guilty for her daughter's death as everything else. So Ford agrees to help, because the crystal gems are like, hey, Ford, we know you can find a way to get the time travel and fix everything. And he's like, yeah, my assistant and I have been working on something to alter the timeline. And his assistant is Billy. Now, Billy never became a Power Ranger in this continuity, because Rita was never freed from her palace. I mean, not palace, the cosmic dumpster, because of the Decepticon Gem War. So he never became but he did become Ford's assistant. Among others, there's Ami in this one, from aka Sailor Mercury, never became Sailor Mercury. What happened is, Sailor Moon never encountered Luna, so she never got her memory, that never led to the road to becoming Sailor Moon. So in here, Sailor Mercury is a member of, Ami is a member of G.I. Joe, which is vastly different. They're more they're more of a government strike team than America's superheroes. And there aren't many superheroes left. Like in here, Chloe became Ladybug. Professor Utonium didn't create the Powerpuff Girls. He instead created a version of Jenny. There's also Shipwreck, who is in here, he's lost an arm and has a cybernetic limb because it got cut off by Toffee, who in here, Toffee is the general to Moon's army. Yeah, Toffee's kind of like the Grand Admiral Thrawn of the Mumin army. That's how I kind of imagine that he's the Thrawn of the army. So now we have this whole team of superheroes who have to find a way to get back, and Steven proposes a way to get back to his timeline, and that is the Phoenix Gate. The Phoenix Gate is, of course, from Gargoyles, and in here the Gargoyles never awoke from their stone slumber, because the castle never got rose above the sky. So they have to find Demona. Well, Demona, while she did still become immortal, is now Demona is now working on the side of the humans, because if it means wiping out humans, that's good for her. And so Demona's also part of the human army. So this little suicide squad of the Crystal Gems, Billy, Ami, Ford, Shipwreck, and also I wanted to bring up a fun fact, is that there is a Buttercup, but it's different. It's Sashi from Pen Zero Part-Time Hero. She goes by the name Buttercup because in here, Chemical X was administered. Pen, Boone, and Sashi were given a dose of Chemical X to be soldiers to help fight in the human Decepticon war. Pen and Boone were killed by Shockwave. So Sashi is the only one left, and the reason why she calls herself Buttercup is because that's Pen's pet name for her. So now we have this team trying to fight their way to get to get the Phoenix Gate from Demona. So it's just utter chaos. Everyone is getting killed left and right until Steven manages to find Demona and take the Phoenix Gate from her and uses it to correct the timeline. And he's like, "Holy shit, that was way too much. I am never time traveling again." But he, during that whole time, he did get to do something that he always wanted to do, and that was spend time with his mother. And the two actually got to have a lot of conversations between the two. Like, he tells her, like, in my timeline, I don't know if you left me if you just made me just so you could clean up all of your mess, because he's like, I know you're Pink Diamond. And he's like, I know you're Pink Diamond, and you left a lot of us torn apart from when you left. And she's just like, I know what I did was wrong, but I know, son, that you will be better than I ever will, because I'm not perfect. Despite what Pearl thinks, despite what your Garnet thinks, I was never perfect, but I knew you would be better than me. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much the cartoon version of Flashpoint. Once again, I'd like to thank Hunter Johnson for this Patreon request and continued patronage. And you guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think of it. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.